Oski, it's freezing out there. Come up. I'll make you some coffee.
As a kite by then.
Californication is a beautiful, depressing love letter to the age-old story of boy meets girl. And much like the show's protagonist, I feel like every episode is just the same old chapter in this story that we've heard countless times before, but it's still enchanting to watch, and more importantly, maybe that's the whole point. Hank Moody seems doomed to follow this predictable structure where we usually see him in a blissful hope at the beginning of an episode before he eventually collapses into self-destruction by the end. While this might make the show less surprising, maybe it's trying to tell us something about the life of this character that we can't seem to take our eyes off, much like almost everyone else in the show. Hank is both at fault of his own actions as well as the actions that he brings out from others, but I feel like he takes both sides of them out on himself. Yes, he can be an asshole, to which he admits to at several times, but in some ways, I see him more as a victim of circumstance, most of which are either extraordinary or out of his control. His estranged lover and baby mama Karen often wants nothing to do with him romantically, but at the same time gets furious and disgusted when she catches him being romantically involved with someone else.
Hey, Karen, you can't have it both ways. You can't tell me to fuck off and forget about you and then wander back into my life whenever you feel like it.
Sometimes he's made to feel like he's done a mistake because of his past, like having a child with someone before he met Karen, even though these actions weren't really a mistake in the moment they happened. And when Karen found out he unintentionally impregnated someone before he met her, she and her daughter become furious at Hank and treat him like absolute shit. But there wasn't really anything wrong about such an action, given it wasn't just done at a time when they didn't know each other, it wasn't even knowledge that was made aware to Hank. Yet throughout all of this, Hank is the one who puts it on himself to have a cross to bear. He is the one to fall into pitiful despair, and is why at the end of almost every episode, you find him either asking for forgiveness or drowning in solemn regret. I'm not saying Hank hasn't made genuine mistakes, but apart from showing up drunk to his estranged family in a desperate attempt to win them back, he really hasn't done anything that was intentionally ill-planned. Even when he slept with a 16-year-old minor and was charged for statutory rape, he didn't know how old she was and was in many ways seduced by her instead of outright seeking it. If anything, he's more at fault of his own inabilities to resist the temptations around him.
Don't be so hard on yourself. You were sexually harassed tonight. As was I. No man can withstand that kind of pressure.
Almost every attractive woman wants to be with him, and almost every man seems to admire him, especially the crazy ones.
I fucking missed you, Moody.
His charm, intelligence, and wit combined with his good looks make him enticable to so many people around him, which inevitably leads him to falling into many situations that make him look bad, but those are actually the same characteristics and situations that make him attractive to those same people in the first place.
I just don't think I'd be very good company for anybody tonight.
Why not? I've heard good things.
The more women he sleeps with, the bigger his sex appeal becomes. The more best-selling novels he writes, the more admired he gets. But is this really Hank's fault, or is this really the fault of others that are just as part of the situation they've put themselves in as Hank is? Can we really blame Hank's own inability to resist these temptations? Like an alcoholic, is it still fair to blame them for drinking to excess when they live in a world filled with alcoholic advertisements and liquor stores that are open later than the churches? Maybe the blame lies somewhere between both parties, but for Hank, he puts everything on himself, time and time again. His love for Karen and his daughter Becca is really the only thing that keeps him going, and at the same time keeps me interested in caring for them, especially that of Karen, because I don't even know why he loves her so much in the first place.
We were never married, so the divorce.
No, but I did ask.
Okay, not the
Number of
time or the
times.
place, Hank?
I gave her a ring. She gave it back. I gave it to a homeless woman.
I'm sorry, it's so sad.
Worked out for the homeless woman.
Everything about Karen is put in a positive light simply because they come from the words of Hank himself, rather than from something Karen has said or did for him. In the show's universe, the relationship feels almost one-sided because apart from some pity sex that was offered to Hank after the death of his father, Karen seems to not really say or do anything unless it's out of sympathy, and even Hank himself doesn't know why he loves her so much.
I mean, what is it about her?
I don't know. I don't think I've ever known.
My love for Karen comes only because of my love for Hank, who in turn loves Karen. And just like every episode, it seems like Hank is doomed to repeat an endless cycle of trying to show love for Karen and failing to do so, having her blame him for actions that are mostly out of his control, and Hank blaming himself because of it in order to try and win her back again. Boy meets girl, Girl Meets Boy.
Hey, Rukowski. It's freezing out there. Come up. I'll make you some coffee.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man that think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man. Rocket man, burning out his fuse out here alone. Mars ain't the kind of place to raise your kids. In fact, it's cold as hell, and there's no one there to raise them if you did. And all the science I don't understand. It's just my job 5 days a week. A rocket man, a rocket man. And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man that think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a rocket man.